All right, so welcome back to the New Life event. Right now we're going to be discussing keyword selection for the short and long haul. If you're brand new to the New Life event, my name is Shauna Siegel. Most of you know me as Shauna Fennell, but I did get married on the 4th of July. I'm the CEO of One Choice for Your Store and the host of Ecom Experts on Webmaster Radio. And if you haven't learned yet, I absolutely love education. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go to the speakers page and click on my bio. We're here to talk about the New Life event. But in order to do that, we have to do special thank yous. We do special thank yous to our speakers. Without having our speakers, we wouldn't have this event. They're giving up their time, and please make sure to say thank you to them because they are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to you guys. We do not have sponsors or advertisers. You are actually the sponsors of the event. It is your job to go out there and spread the word about the New Life event. If nobody comes to the webinars, then the speakers don't want to come either. So it's your job to get people in here, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And we're going to be giving you some really great prizes throughout the weekend. So in order to spread the word, get out there and do Facebook or Twitter. And if you're going to be on Twitter, make sure you put the hashtag NLE. As a matter of fact, if you go to tweetchat.com and enter NLE up at the top and sign in. It's a lot of fun because it's like having our very own chat room, and you can see what others are talking about and discussing about the New Life event. Our upcoming schedule for tonight is still awesome. We're talking about social media and e-commerce shipping, and of course how to grow your business to 7 figures, which is going to be very interesting. If you have questions, you can go to Twitter, or there's a questions box on the right-hand side. And without further ado, let me introduce you to Dave Davies. And he's the owner and CEO of Beanstalk Search Engine Optimization. And aside from running a successful SEO company, Dave hosts a weekly radio show on search engine optimization called Webcology on webmasterradio.fm. He wrote the second version of the SEM kit for SitePoint.com and is a well-published author and blogger for the SEO community. Dave has also spoken at various events, including a number of search engine strategy conferences. And I think most importantly, Dave just came back from Whistler, where he was doing some downhill mountain biking, and my son is so jealous.
I can't blame him. It's a beautiful place and a fun sport for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dave, thank you so much for being with us on, I guess it's your Friday afternoon where you're at. We certainly do appreciate it, and we're all looking forward to learning more about keyword research. So, with that, I am going to mute myself and pass over the controls to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Today we're going to be chatting a little bit. I'm just going to delve right in because I know we're all short on time and want to get as much covered as we can. I'm going to be talking about keyword selection and the short and long-term goals that you're going to need to set. Keyword selection, as hopefully all of us here know, isn't just a one-off, get it done, and this is the way it's going to be forever. So what we're going to do here is look at different ways of setting goals based on what you need for the short-term, medium-range, and long-term of the health of your site. So without further ado, let's get started. So in here, what we're going to cover is the basics of keyword research, obviously. Tools of the trade. This isn't just keyword research tools of the trade, but also tools to help you analyze exactly what targets you should be hitting and in what order. Quick competition analysis. Most of the tools that I'm going to be covering fit more into that category as ways of quickly looking at the competition, figuring out how competitive a certain phrase is going to be to enable you to set your short and long-term goals out. And sometimes you're going to be quite surprised about how competitive something might or might not be. Determining what to do. You've done your analysis. Now, what do you do with it? And then, obviously, doing it. And we'll just we'll touch really lightly on there, and hopefully everybody here is going to stay listening for a great weekend because there's going to be a lot to cover into that category of just getting it done. So heading into keyword research, something that's often confused is the ego of keyword research versus the actual function of keyword research, and it's really, really important to differentiate between these two things. So basically one of the principles we need to remember, and I've fallen into this trap myself, is that keyword research is not about ego. It's not about finding the high traffic phrases, all the things you can think up and trying to rank for them. A lot of time and money can be wasted trying to do that. Keyword research is about figuring out what's going to make you money, short-term, long-term, and doing that. So hopefully, you write that on the back of your hand. It's probably the most important function of keyword or fact about keyword research that you can remember. When we're heading into keyword research, and I'll be covering a lot of these points a little later and how they apply, you need to consider how long you can survive without ROI. When we're looking at keywords, we're going to be looking at how long, when we're looking at the competition rather, we're going to be looking at how long until we can expect to start to retrieve an ROI from a specific set of phrases. So sometimes we're going to have to balance off, if I go for phrase X, it's going to take me 3 months to attain it, but it's not going to make me all that much money, maybe $1,000 a month. Or if I go for phrase Y, it's going to take me 6 months, 7 months maybe, but it's going to make me $5,000 a month. But if I go for X before Y, it's going to take me longer to get phrase Y. Well, how long can you survive without that ROI coming in is going to be a big question, and are your goals short-term or are they long-term? And I give you, a little later, I'll get into my personal opinion and how I treat most of these things. We all need to remember, best intentions set aside, how much effort are you really willing to put in? So when we're looking at our competitors here a little later into this session, we'll be looking at, okay, what do they have? And you really need to think, how much effort am I willing to put in for the ROI that I can be pulling out of this thing? And as touched on earlier, one of my hobbies is downhill mountain biking, and I have no clients in that area, so I can kind of touch on the keywords in that. So I'm going to use a downhill mountain biking site as an example when we're talking about the keyword research. So let's get a little bit into that, since that's what the whole thing's about. I'm using the example of a downhill mountain biking site. Obviously, apply this to whatever it is that you're doing specifically. So the first thing that I do when I'm looking at, assuming I was launching a site here, a downhill mountain biking site, the first thing that I do when I'm doing any of these, and here it would apply more to my affiliate work, which is different than my work for clients as an SEO. When I'm doing affiliate sites, the first thing I look at is, what are the generic phrases? So first, what are the biggest phrases that we can get? As all of you are probably amply familiar with, when you're looking at your generic phrases, most of the keyword tools will show you all of the things under that. So what are the things that include those words that have less? Google's keyword tool being the best example of those things. So I begin with mountain bike, mountain biking, and basically prioritize them by search volume. That's step one. Then take a look, and in your case, knowing the different models or products or different long-tail brands or whatnot that would apply, look for in the case of the mountain biking site, I would then look up various parts, various brands. Is it a shifter? Is it a brake? Is it a, et cetera, et cetera. Find everything. Pull together all the information that I can as far as what is the search volume as broadly as possible. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be left with probably, it'll depend on your industry, of course, but I'm going to be left with, I usually try and go in with 10 to 15 generic phrases to look at and determine from my short to long-term goals. And then about 50 to 60 less competitive. And anybody who's paying attention in the last New Life event, I covered long-tail targeting and long-tail SEO. This is that 50 to 60 that we'd be heading in with here, the 50 to 60 long-tail keywords. Great to target. Hopefully you'll have a chance to look back at the session there on that one. But for this session, we're going to be covering the 15 generic. And once we're left with that list, now what do we do? Now I can't go through all of them, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to touch on just a few phrases, and hopefully you can extrapolate from that. Here's what we do, and I'll be answering some questions later as far as how to use the tools. I can only give a couple examples here on keyword phrases and how to analyze the competition. Happy to answer questions later. So first, before we head into the competition analysis side of things in the keyword, I'm going to talk a little bit of tools of the trade. Purposely here, I'm going to only talk about free tools. This is as a nicety, because really all I can chat about here or I want what I'm saying here to apply to absolutely everybody. So I don't want you to be restricted by your budget as far as what you can do. And quite honestly, 90% of some of the best tools that I've ever used qualify as free tools here. And on my list here is SEO Quake. If I had to be left with only one of the tools that I use in the entire SEO process, that would be it. So the first tool in my list is going to be Firefox. Obviously, if you don't have Firefox, get it. If it's not the official browser of SEOs, then it certainly should be. SEO Quake, it's an extension for Firefox. get it, download it. It's free. Google Keyword Tool, we're all amply familiar with that, I'm sure. And Site Explorer, Yahoo's, well, Site Explorer. We'll get into their application later as well at the end of the session. I've got a little bonus tool that doesn't really apply to what I'm doing here, but that will make Site Explorer much more useful for you when you're doing your advanced competition analysis. So going in, let's get some quick competition analysis. So assuming that you've used Google's keyword tool, and I'm not going to get into how it's used because I'm sure everybody here is amply familiar with it. You've set out your keywords. You know what all of your main keyword targets are going to be. In this case, I'm going to limit it down to 2 of my possible ones. I'll explain why in a minute. I've got my most competitive possible phrase, the one that I searched right at the beginning, incredibly high monthly search volume, sitting at over 60,000, mountain bike. Fantastic target. I will get into why now that would qualify as a very long-term target and not something I would even try to do early on. And then falling further down that list was full suspension mountain bikes coming in at 1,000. Now the reason that I chose it after going through everything is because understanding my own hobby, full suspension mountain bikes sell for a lot of money. And so going in when I was selecting keywords, or if I was selecting keywords, I would look at that phrase and go, great, somebody's looking up full suspension mountain bikes. They're probably willing to drop $4,000 to $5,000 on something, and that's exactly who I would love at my site for a short-term goal. There were obviously some phrases between these two, but I selected these two to use as examples. So when I run this search, now at this point I'm using Firefox and I've got SEO Quake installed. Now when I run that search, I'm going to end up with a screen that looks much more like this. Now you'll notice that below each URL, we've got SEO Quake, and it's filling in some data. Now I can fill in a lot more data. You'll see all those question marks existing on the screen there. I try to be as kind as possible to the search engines because I'm running an office, and all of us are using tools like this and bombarding the search engines queries to the point where we have multiple internet connections just to offset that. But so I've just pulled down the key relevant data here for a quick snapshot, and that is what is the page rank of the top 10 sites, what are the backlink counts of the top 10 sites. So we can take a look here, and I've entered in mountain bike, and we can see the page ranks are very high. There is 1.4 in there at a site with almost 20,000 backlinks. The average is 5 or 6. These are incredibly competitive. So I know going in, this is a severe uphill battle. And one that, yes, it's a great one. Yes, there's a high ROI, big search volume. That's fantastic. But we need something in the meantime. This is probably going to take many, many months, probably well over a year, maybe even multiple years to attain high rankings in a phrase like this. So what are we going to do in the meantime? Now let's take a look at full suspension mountain bike. When we look down there, we see we've got some page rank 4s in there. We've even got a 2 in there. We've got some video results, but all of them have low link volumes. All of them are internal pages. Basically, this is going to be a much easier competition. And using SEO Quake, I can get a full snapshot. I've only shown the top few here, but I can get a full snapshot of the entire top 10 all at once and see over the top 10, is this competitive or is this not? In the case of full suspension mountain bikes, it actually drops right down into 2s and 3s after this PageRank 5 MTBR. In the case of mountain bikes, it maintains a high level of competition. So what this quick snapshot enabled me to do is to quickly look at these phrases when I've got potentially dozens, maybe even hedging on hundreds, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish and what sector I'm going into. Quickly go through them all and establish which phrases am I going to lump into my short-term goals list and which phrases am I going to lump into my long-term goals list. In this case, it's pretty obvious. Full suspension mountain bikes fits my short-term goals, and mountain bikes goes into my long-term goals. Obviously, you also wouldn't want to head in with just a single keyword phrase. You would then have to take a look at all of the long tail phrases that you're also thinking of targeting. In this case, the example that I'm using, the brands and the part numbers and the manufacturers, and try and take a look at those and put those into different categories based on short and long-term goals, taking a look at what is your ROI per item, per keyword, potential ROI per keyword. In this case, I looked at, or using this example, full suspension mountain bikes. I know a sale in that area is going to be lucrative because inherently full suspension mountain bikes are expensive. So when people are looking up this, my potential ROI is high. that helped me decide that this made a great possible target for the example that we're using here. So once we know what phrases it is we're going to want to target, then we need to figure out, well, really, what do we do now? So first you need to assess, once you have an idea of your keyword targets, and sometimes during that process, what are your ROI opportunities? Going back to the full suspension mountain bike example, taking a look at that and going, this as a keyword phrase has a high potential ROI. I may hit a phrase like handlebars, mountain biking handlebars, with a higher search volume, but they're going to sell for about $30. I would take 20 of those sales to amount to the conversion or the ROI to me as an affiliate that I could be earning with a full suspension mountain bike. So you need to take a look at these things and take them into account while you're deciding. You also need to assess your time frames. How long can you exist, and we touched on this earlier, without starting to see an ROI? If I went straight for mountain bikes, full bore, blinders on, that's all I'm doing, I'm going to get that phrase before I would if I started targeting some other phrases en route, went for full suspension mountain bikes, buy mountain bikes online, all of these other potential less competitive, easier to get phrases. But if I went straight for mountain bikes, I'm going to get it faster. So am I willing to sacrifice a delay on the long-term goals versus my short-term? Now, in the case of the example that I've given here, and this is a fairly typical one from my experiences, the most generic of the phrases is generally substantially more competitive than some of the other opportunities that exist in a specific sector. That's why I use this as the example here. So in a case like this, my leaning is to head more towards the ones that are going to produce me an ROI fast, put money in my pocket, bird in hand is worth two in the bush kind of approach to keyword selection. If either the competition for the lower search phrases or more specific phrases is about the same as the more generic phrases, you obviously have some different considerations to make, and you would look at potential conversion rates as opposed to how difficult or how long they're going to be to get, as there would be a more level playing field in time frames, and that sort of gets outside the scope of what we're covering here. So assessing your time frames is extremely important, and you need to be honest with yourself about your resources. You're here taking up your weekend listening to webinars, and I certainly appreciate it, and I know New Life Events certainly does as well. Obviously, you are dedicated to your business, to your sites, to making money with online efforts. So you've sort of taken, this may be your fifth step, but you've taken these leaps and you're willing to put in the time that it takes. So you need to still be honest with yourself, however, about what resources do you have. I'm a professional SEO. I still have a limitation in resources and what I can do with my side projects or affiliate sites or whatnot. So you need to assess those and take that into account, especially in the area of link building, but also in technical knowledge, and take those into account while trying to figure out what are some logical targets as we move forward. Here's a personal note, and I've mentioned it before, I know. I generally go with the fast profit to reinvest into further promotions. It's going to be a lot more comfortable to go get something earlier on, start getting those checks in. If nothing else, it's going to be highly motivating to start to see those checks come in. They may be smaller at first, but you can sort of get beaten down if you're going to have to wait 12 to 15 months to get that first commission check or check from your business. Whereas if you start getting them after 3 or 4 months, you may find that you have more resources and time than you thought when the motivation sort of strikes you. So, okay, now we've sort of covered the aspect of selecting your keyword phrases. Now we need to talk about doing it. Now, once you've sort of figured out how to assess it, this is where, and I mentioned it earlier, Site Explorer comes in, as well as your technical skills. You're going to hit questions like, do you have the resources available to you? Do you have Dreamweaver? Do you know Dreamweaver? How are you building your websites? Are you using a Yahoo store? Which, I mean, these are is a fantastic resource in and of itself. How is it being built, and how much time do you have to do link building? You're going to need to listen really, really closely to the other webinars coming up. Obviously, in this one, I've tried to focus a little bit on keyword research. I'm not going to try and get into the full, here's how to do the entire SEO. There's a whole series of webinars coming up over the weekend that I hope you'll stay tuned for and listen on how to get that job done. And of course, you're welcome to read some of our SEO articles over at beanstalk-inc.com/articles, and we try and cover top 10 series on how to do the full process. Now, earlier I touched on Firefox and some other tools of the trade. Here's the URLs you'll find. I'm going to leave this screen up just for a little bit, give you time to copy them down and head over. You can just jot down the titles, just Google them. The first result is going to do it. But again, there's Firefox, critical. If you're not using it, do. There's some other great extensions, but I'm just listing off the most important ones. SEO Quake, Google's keyword tool. There's some other great keyword tools out there, word tracker, keyword discovery, et cetera, et cetera. But I've tried to keep these to the free ones, as I mentioned. Site Explorer. And the one that I didn't include in my earlier list, and it's an absolutely fantastic tool, is another Firefox extension, also free, obviously, called SEO Link Analysis. I'm going to try and just drag this over onto here. Hopefully it will be visible here on your screen. I just dragged my Firefox over here. But what it will do is when you use Site Explorer, it can be a very, very tedious task to go one by one through all of the backlinks that your competitors are using there, which is going to be a key function when you're actually trying to rank and take a look at their backlink profiles. So if you can put this in, it doesn't really apply to keyword research, but if you plug it in or if you install it into your Firefox, when you do use Site Explorer, it actually shows you automatically the page rank and anchor text of all of those links coming into your competitor, so it can save you just huge, huge, huge amounts of time while you're doing your backlink analysis. So anybody, I will hand this list through to Shauna so that she can post it where she feels so inclined to. In case anybody missed these tools, I'm just going to move on to a great big thank you to everybody for listening today, and I hope that you found it helpful, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Wow. You know, I love keyword research. We recently did a full series of webinars on the LOCK method, which is learn, optimize, convert, and kick it up. And the learn method is all about keyword research and learning about all kinds of good stuff. And keyword research is just so important because so many times you're looking at store owners, as long, you know, for us anyway, we're looking at store owners and we're looking at their sites and we're looking at these category names and we're saying, how did you come up with these names? Well, I thought of them myself. And it's like, no, keyword research, my friend.
Well, you know, and that's a really good point. And one, I mean, I've forgotten it as well, but you know, and the same can be said when reviewing your statistics. Is it's not up to us to tell our clients what they want, right? It's up to us to figure out what people want and then provide it to them. And you list a great example. Your category name should be what people are looking for. It's going to help SEO, and it's going to make that person more comfortable with what you're talking about when they see something they're comfortable with on your site.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, I kind of talk about horses a lot because we got 3 of them, but there's a horse trainer out there called Clinton Anderson. He's very, very well known in the horse world, you know, and he says that if you talk to people in a language they understand, then they are going to want to relate. They'll relate to you and they'll want to be around you, and it just has all this great information, you know. And he talked about when he was younger, he went to, you know, this lady who said, I want you to take this blah, 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 and I want you to bring it to the blah, blah, blah rib and do this and do this and do this. And he goes, so you want the nose to touch the rib. Why didn't you just say that, you know? So you do have to talk in a way where people do understand. So if you can go back to the slide with the free links, that was awesome. And that way we can have that on there. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you some of these questions here. How does someone get onto the first page, first search page that fast after an event? Or how does one start a holiday campaign with keywords? Great question, Julie.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're, just to make sure I understand the question properly, we're somebody who's right now trying to figure out what to do for this upcoming holiday season. Is that okay, and do it quickly. Well, I'm going to hope for their sake that they've already got a website and it's got some history, that they're not going out right now to GoDaddy to purchase their domain.
Right.
You know, so assuming that our listeners here already have websites, there's 2 things that I would recommend to do, and I'm going to assume for the sake of this conversation that we're dealing with a standard website from somebody who hasn't maybe been too hardcore into SEO, so they've got maybe 100 or so links, a fairly unoptimized, perfectly kind of situation here. I'm hoping that sort of applies to most
Julie
people.
is saying, yep, he's got it.
Okay. What I would do is make sure that we're realistic about what we're doing. You're not going to rank for something like Christmas gifts. Going in. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you've got people with SEO, or you're against companies with SEOs on staff right now. So in this kind of time frame, that's not going to happen. I mean, unless we're talking budgets beyond what I think, from my experience, most people have. So what I would do in that spot is start to really think about what are people looking for what you're selling. Maybe inspired during Christmas. What are they looking for? And if you go to Google's keyword tool, they actually show you the trend. So they're going to show you what is not just search volume last month, but they have a little graph now. I love the new keyword tool they're using, but it'll show you what is the trend over the past 12 months. So you can see for your keywords what's higher in October, November, December as we're heading into that season. So take a look at your keywords and apply them there. Ranking for something, unless you're, say, in the card industry, like you're a retailer for Hallmark or Disney cards and this sort of thing, you're going to have a really difficult time going straight for some generic, Christmas gifts for mom sort of thing because of the competition of who you are up against. But you can still capitalize really nicely, and the advantage to figuring out which of your phrases works best during the holidays. And there may be some, Christmas gifts that are, or, get mom insert product for Christmas sort of type phrases. But the advantage to just figuring out which phrases work best at Christmas in your industry and then starting to go for those is after Christmas, you're still going to be profiting from the work that you did rather than ranking for Christmas gifts, and that's fantastic for 2 months. Costs you a ton and put a ton of effort in to get it. And then, come December 26th, well, hang on to your hats, and it's going to take, you're going to have to maintain this for another 10 months before you can expect to start profiting from it. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And something very interesting a lot of store owners don't think about is they'll check out these trends and they'll look at this, and then they're not looking at some of the demographics of these trends. And what's really can be found very interesting is maybe you find that 50% of the people searching for this are located outside of the United States, and you're ranking really high for this search term phrase, but you don't offer international shipping.
You know what? That's a great example. That's an absolutely fantastic example. And another consideration, I mean, geographically, I'm located in Canada, but 90% of my clients are in the States and a couple in the UK. But I hit that often, and I've had to convince my brain to the point where my kids' teachers are kind of driven nuts because I say Z and I measure things in feet. At this point, my brain is tuned that way. But also the opportunities that you may encounter where, okay, you are getting some great traffic from the UK, for example. Well, what if, on specific pages, we start doing some IP detection and switch, color to include a U when it's ranking there, and maybe find some suppliers in those areas. Like if you start finding that there's opportunities there and that you're ranking there and you're getting traffic there, maybe you do only service the U.S., but it doesn't necessarily mean you can only ever service the U.S., and you may have maybe finding some other great opportunities there.
Oh, absolutely. And Nate Gilmore from Shipwire is going to be talking about growing overseas sales. So that's definitely something that is going to be interesting. That's going to be on Sunday, so I'm interested. The other thing is that when you're looking at the demographics, you can also look at states, because what I learned moving from California to Indiana is that some of the things in California are definitely not as popular as they were when I got to Indiana, and likewise the other way. So if you're finding that the search terms are coming a lot from the Midwest and you're doing pay-per-click advertising, you can focus that, just like we learned at our 4 o'clock webinar, you can focus in that advertising to the Midwest and not pay so much for, California, who is not even interested in it.
Right. Oh, great example. And I mean, I love pay-per-click for that. I'm an organic SEO, but I just love what you can do with pay-per-click, from that targeting, from testing different ads into different sectors. Right? I mean, just because an ad works, with this person smiling at you in the South, doesn't mean that same ad's going to work in New York or it's going to work in Seattle. So yeah, I love PPC for exactly what you're talking about there.
Oh, I love it too. I love it too. So we've got more questions for you, if that's okay. And they're great questions. So, but first, Kat says, thanks so much, especially for emphasizing the free tools for us beginners. And of course, that's what we love, especially when we're starting out. But Mark wants to know, how do you decide which affiliate programs to use and incorporate into your blogs and websites? And I know that that's kind of a hard one to answer.
It can be a hard one to answer. Now, I mean, it's fortunate I got my start as an affiliate marketer. Now, this is going back about 11 years, so SEO was not what it is today back then. But at the same time, I also, as well as doing affiliate marketing, I also have some affiliate links on our corporate site. So you have to treat each differently. What I would do as an affiliate marketer and what I do as an affiliate marketer is actually different than what I do with my site, with the corporate site. So if we're dealing with a corporate site and how do I choose affiliate programs to put onto our corporate site, the answer is I don't. I figure out what tools I am using. I figure out what I have used. I figure out what hosting providers have provided great service to our clients, and I'm going to recommend them anyway. So I might as well make some money at it, right? And so if they have an affiliate program, I'll use the affiliate program. If they don't, I'll still link to them because they're a good resource. So with a corporate site, we're dealing more with reputation, so if you can generate revenue, do. But if you can't, and I wouldn't force an affiliate link into our corporate site just because I thought it would be profitable. That's not our profit line for a corporate site. Now, as an affiliate, and when I'm launching affiliate sites, now my greedy brain comes on. And there's nothing wrong with greed. So when I'm looking at that and I'm trying to decide on affiliate programs to launch sites for, which I do often, I usually first start to take a look at what am I interested in. In this case, I talked about mountain biking. Well, I don't have the time to actually invest in a site that would be that large, but that would be a good example for me or something like that. The only reason I choose ones I'm interested in is purely because if you're going to have to stare at something for the next year of your life, it might as well be something that you're kind of interested in. But it's not necessary. If all you're concerned about is money, what I do is try and figure out which affiliate programs pay the most, collect about 20% of them, like in different sectors, collect about 20 of them, like figure out what are these 20 things. They don't even have to be related. What are they? How much do they pay out? Great. Here's what they pay out. Do the keyword research. Figure out which ones you can make money fast from, and then build a site and go. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, when I'm doing affiliate type sites, it is about a quick return on investment, and then something that, yeah, there might be long-term potential for it on, but and this is just my mentality towards affiliate sites. There's definitely some other legitimate ones, but it's make money fast, try and keep it up for the long term. But if that doesn't happen, it's about building it, build a good, decent resource, do some link building, get it ranking, get some revenue coming in. You want some low turnaround. Like you don't want people dropping off of these services because you're probably not going to get paid if they do, but a high payout. Usually services are great for that. Hosting is a great example, but very, very difficult to break into. But a good example of services like that with really, really high payouts if their retention is really quite high. So, and that's what I do is figure out how I can make money the fastest by looking at a wide array of different things. Build the site, optimize it, build some links to it depending on the competition levels. Just get it done and cash the check.
Absolutely. Now, Mark and Lorraine kind of had a similar topic as far as backlinks are concerned, because Mark wants to know, how do you go about getting all the backlinks to your blog or website? And Lorraine wanted to know, that you can go to Yahoo, and you mentioned about you can see kind of some of those backlisted links. So what do you do when the backlinks are identified on that tool? Kind of.
That's a very, very good question. I guess I'll cover that one first. What you do with this information once you've got it. Sometimes you can find, using Site Explorer, for example, you can find places that you can get links from. That's great. I mean, when you can actually find wonderful opportunities to get links, if they've used them for whatever link exchanges, or it's a forum that you can comment on, or better yet, if you can find them buying links that you can report, that it's easier to move up if you've eliminated one of those people. Some people have a problem with that. I don't. If you can find specific ways to get links or report the people ahead of you, fine. I mean, that's in and of itself great. But what I use these tools for more is to get a profile of what my competitors are doing. So what are the strategies they are using? So I'm not necessarily going, where do they, did they publish an article and where is it? Did they put out a press release and where is it? It's not just about that. It's about building up a profile of, they did do this strategy. Here's the kind of links that they got from that. Great. And this person got, used this strategy, and getting a real feel for the strategies that are being used and that are successful in that sector. And then once you've done that, you can't just do it for a single site. Take a look at that across the entire top 10, and you get a really good profile of what strategies are about to work. Now, the implementation of it can either be to duplicate what has been successful before you. So if you find, to use press releases as an example, if you found, the press release, these 3 companies in the top 10 used them, so, it's probably a good idea. And, they got syndicated on all of these places. Okay, well, now you know where to go. But I don't recommend to just stop there. I wouldn't go, okay, well, they put out a press release and it went to these 8 places. Fantastic, let's put it out to these 8 places. Great, put it out to those 8 places. But you've already written the press release, so find 8 more while you're there. And do some searches of your own. You can't just duplicate what other people do, because you're always going to be just one step behind them, because Site Explorer isn't going to show you what they're doing right now. It only shows you what they did before. So you need to make sure that, yeah, you can do what they do or do what they did differently. But you need to always be one step ahead of them. Otherwise, you're never going to take the top 10. You'll always be sitting right at the top of page 2, because they're always doing something that you're just one step behind if you're just monitoring what's going on. So,
and don't you just hate that?
I do. You hate that until you're one of the ones on the first page, then you love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're watching your competitors constantly copy what you do, and then you get to laugh and giggle because they're always trying to keep up with you, which is quite it's quite an accomplishment to have that start to happen. So
it definitely is. And I mean, something really important to remember is your competitors' backlinks may be a lie of sorts. And not to say, gee, they're horrible, but when you look at somebody's backlinks, or in the same way all statistics are a lie, I suppose, it's not to say that, gee, looking in and by necessity, you will have to do less, but I've hit many, many competitions where when we are doing our competition analysis and we're taking a look at the backlinks of the sites that are winning, or when I'm doing it with an affiliate site, we realize that just because it says they have 20,000 backlinks doesn't mean they have the power of 20,000 backlinks. And I know when I first started a company targeting SEO services, there was a site there, and I'll leave them unnamed, but there was a site there that had 90,000 backlinks. I was like, okay, well, pick a different phrase. And sure enough, I did. I picked a different phrase. And then it was months later that I really started drilling down and perfected my skills in competition and backlink analysis, and went, they cheated. They've got all these run of sites on their clients and here and there. I mean, it's not cheating. It's not that it's horrible, but they're not as strong as 80,000 links are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, and back to that phrase. Well, they did a great job. They held their rankings for an extra 6 months while I figured out that they weren't quite as strong as I thought they were going in. So do take a deeper look, and that's one of the things that the SEO link analysis tool is really handy for, is helping you get that slightly deeper look at sort of what their links are. Do follow some of them through, though. Nothing will tell you what a link is as much as actually seeing it. So just because you have a report of the page rank and the anchor text, do still click on some of those links in Site Explorer and take a look and see for yourself what they've done.
All right. Now, a great question here is, do you recommend putting holiday jargon into product descriptions for search purposes?
Well, yeah, I mean, right now I wouldn't, but later I would. And this just gets more into the what's going to convert. Yes, you can work in. So I assume that we're trying to rank for Christmas gift cards or something, right? Like just something like that. I'm just picking a phrase at random here that involves the word Christmas. So if I was trying to attain that on site, you need to remember it gets picked up fairly quickly from Google. I mean, the exact speed is going to depend on how often they crawl your site, but they're going to pick up the on-site fairly fast. From my experience, once they crawl your site, within 2 weeks, they're going to have reanalyzed, sometimes shorter, but within 2 weeks, they're going to have reanalyzed what your content means and its relevancy. So right now, would I go and start littering my site with words like Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's and Halloween? No, I wouldn't. Well, maybe. Okay, Halloween might be a bad example because people, if you own like a costume site or something, people might actually be gearing that far in advance. But you're going to ruin your conversions now because your site's not going to word right. Whereas once you hit a little closer to, September, okay, I might start doing that, but it will make sense for my visitors at the time, not just for the search engines. Now, if we're talking about shopping feeds or products specific to the holiday season, like if you're selling, Christmas tablecloths, well, then yes,
Yes.
that makes perfect sense, and I would switch the word holly for Christmas in a lot of them, or have both. So yeah, that's the route I'd go on that one. At the end of the day, it really is about your visitor. It's overused, that statement, but it is really, really important. If you kill your sales now to try and rank for Christmas stuff, well, you're going to lose in the short term. And what if you don't get Christmas stuff? Then you just kind of lost it all at once, right? So.
Absolutely, and if you train Google the right way, they should pick up these new descriptions and new everything that you're putting in pretty quickly. The key there, though, is to train Google that you are updating your site. You're updating your content on a consistent basis and constantly just doing this. And that, that's what you're telling Google. I'm on top of the site. I'm constantly updating. You need to come to my site consistently because I'm really changing it up. Another thing is that a lot of people don't think about this running e-commerce sites, but your customers are going to be out there looking for, and you need to see if they're doing this, looking for maybe your product name plus free shipping.
Right.
Or your product name and a coupon code. So if you find that your keyword research is telling you that information, that's the kind of stuff that you want to put in your information today so that you get those kind of sales immediately. That's something absolutely so important. And a great tip that somebody brought up is Google Trends is great, but eBay Trends is also great for finding out what people are buying, and don't forget Amazon as well. So that's more information that we all share and all that as well. So would you recommend an affiliate program such as ClickBank or Amazon? And Mark, just to clarify, are you thinking as far as for your store, I'm thinking to put affiliate links into your site, and in that case, I think you have to find an affiliate program that matches and is related to the content and to your site. Wouldn't you agree, Dave?
I would. Now, if you're looking for programs themselves, like if you're looking for a place to go to find them, which that may be what he's talking about, it is different. If I was a business owner, launching an affiliate program, I would have a different answer than where I would go to look. But a great place to look if you're looking to put affiliate links onto your site is Commission Junction. And one of the, there's many other ones. One of the reasons I do like Commission Junction, however, is one of my clients, and I'll leave them unnamed, is a business under Commission Junction, and I know that they're biased towards affiliates, shall we say. In the models that they operate under. So as an affiliate who's looking for links, you know that you're dealing with a company that is biased in your favor and not biased in the favor of the business. So at the other side, not to speak ill of them as from a business owner perspective, they've actually done fairly well for my client as well. So.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, as always, you're just so helpful and wonderful, and just give us tons of information. Would it be okay if we ask you 2 more questions?
Most certainly.
Ah, that's why I love you. You share education like the rest of us. This one is actually a really great question. Does it pay to have Twitter news widget on your site?
Never that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can ask, I guess Google would be the best person to ask that to.
Go to Matt Cutts and ask.
But I've never, I get why, and my instinct when I first sort of saw it and went, oh, hey, I can have this fresh content just, kind of always appearing, and it's always new, and it's Twitter, and, we know Google likes Twitter, and this and that. It doesn't seem to have an enormous, it's had kind of a zero impact, and I have tested it on a couple sites, and it seems to have had zero impact on anything. It hasn't been detrimental,
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been advantageous. So what you have to ask yourself is, to that end, does it serve your visitor? Sorry to repeat back there, but since it doesn't impact SEO, that becomes the next question is, does it actually serve your visitor? If it does serve your visitor, then it may serve your SEO because your stick time is going to be higher. Google knows when somebody clicks on you in the results. So if somebody clicks on your result when they run a search and then they don't come back to Google, Google knows that, and that's a point in your favor. So indirectly, it may help your SEO efforts if it actually affects your visitors in a positive way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. Great information. And the last one I think would be a really good one is what is the most significant SEO change that you've seen in the last few months? Personally, I think Mayday, as far as for e-commerce site, was the most significant, if you ask me.
I would have to agree. Mayday for affiliate level sites. I have a hunch, or not affiliate, sorry, for e-commerce, like sites that were reliant on long tail. That is just so tough. When we're considering things outside of just purist SEO, though, but search engine traffic as a general rule, I would say not necessarily just the first few months, but something I've started playing with a lot more and that has become a lot simpler would be, and I recommend this for all of your clients as well, would be shopping. Shopping results, it's become much easier and much more effective over the last few months. I've had clients really struggling with it for a long time, and they're getting a lot of traffic from Google now and Google product search because Google's made it easier to get their feeds in and easier for SEOs. Well, not that they're trying to make my life easier, but easier for us to get them the information it's going to take to get into the top 3. Because, of course, if you're not in the top 3 on shopping results, you don't appear in the organic results for model searches. And if you're not in the top 3, then you don't get found. So that's probably on direct traffic, probably one of the bigger increases. The clients that we have in that area have had significant double-digit improvements over the last 6 months just based on Google product search. But they also weren't seeing the kind of weird changes that you were experiencing. I imagine a lot of your clients have experienced with the Mayday update. Which, and just to warn people, we are seeing some oddities right now, so you may find some oddness coming up over the next, probably on the weekend, if not then next weekend. I'm expecting a fairly major update on Google from what we're seeing on the East Coast versus West Coast right now. So, it's going to be a fun weekend for listening to some SEO stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So this is just absolutely wonderful information. And, I just really appreciate you being here and sharing your time with us. It's just absolutely wonderful. And if you want to find out more about Mr. Dave, you can definitely go to his website, Beanstalk SEO, and find out more about him. And he's just absolutely wonderful. And check him out on webmasterradio.fm. When are you live?
This week's going to be a little different because we got, some sessions and conferences coming up here soon, but it's usually Thursdays at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, yeah, check him out. Definitely a great radio show, and you can even catch it on iTunes if you're busy during the week, but it's a really great show, and you're going to learn lots from it, and you're going to be able to keep up with what's going on in the search industry on a weekly basis, which will definitely help you. So I highly recommend grabbing that and making sure that you listen to that. So, Dave, you have a wonderful weekend, and I'm still jealous that you got to go to Whistler, and my son is too.
Well, I hope to see him there one day.
Oh, absolutely. We are definitely going to be there one day. You betcha.
Wonderful.
Well, all right. Thanks. All right.